Military Mom Talk Radio. We know behind every soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine is the family supporting them. With over 200 episodes in 17 countries, over 5 seasons, with 3 million monthly listeners, we are radio strong. Now here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and today's show is about adjusting to new normals. Now, Rob, change is everything in the military family. You know, we PCS move to different locations, we have different friends, we have different lifestyles, different houses. I mean, the average military family moves like 15 times in their career. Yeah. Change is a part of life, and change is prevalent in everything we do. Seasons change, bodies change, children change, but yet we still have the hardest time adapting to change.
And I don't know if it's a matter of not being willing to embrace the unknown. We don't know if we can handle it. We don't maybe have that self-confidence. Maybe it's a matter of being comfortable with what we know and afraid of what we don't know. It's very difficult because you are then not in control. You are in control of something that you are familiar with, that you know, but you're not in control when something brand new comes along. That's hard.
No, but I mean, we can go down to a simple haircut. You know, like, everybody knows what it's like to go and get your hair cut, and the stylist is like, hey, let's make a change. And you're like, yeah, oh no.
Like, okay, yeah, but it's hard. It is hard. With hair, at least it grows back. With some new normals that we have to get adjusted to, that's never going to be the same. And I think that's the letting go part that none of us likes, or a lot of times is very difficult to embrace.
It is really difficult to embrace, and I think it's human nature to resist it, don't you?
Yeah, I do. When you have an injury, when you have a medical issue, those are the things that will never be the same. You know, once you've gone through cancer, you will never quite be the same. Once you've had an accident or something happens while you're deployed, it's never going to be the same. And I think that's where the challenge is how strong are you going to be to look at potential versus look at challenge?
Well, and I think there's like two different kinds of changes, Rob, in my experience. Like, one is the change you choose. You know, you go to the hair salon, you choose to change your hair. You know, well, not always having a child is a choice, but you by and large, we choose things. We want to get a new car. We want to change things out. Yeah. And with your choice, I think it's a little easier to handle than when it's a choice foisted upon you. You know, when my mom died, I had the choice whether or not to take my father into my household, you know, my veteran father. And that was my choice to do so. So when I get frustrated and mad, I remind myself, hey, Sam, this was your choice.
Right.
But my mom died unexpectedly from cancer, not by choice.
Right.
And I'm still resentful that she died. I'm not resentful at her. I'm resentful at our medical system. I'm resentful at, you know, whatever caused the cancer. You know, I get resentful that my mom's not here to help me with all this single parenting thing. And yet I chose to bring my dad into the household, which ratchets up my stress like you wouldn't believe. But, you know, it's that the changes we choose are a lot easier to swallow than the changes we don't choose.
Sure. And I think in the military, especially when all of a sudden you've got to make a move, sometimes you do have some choice of where or whether you're going to be on base or not on base. But sometimes, depending on your deployment, you may not have a choice. I think that's very difficult for spouses to deal with because although you're enlisted person is doing his or her job, the spouse oftentimes isn't in control of any of that. So all of a sudden, you've got to make a household where the town you're not particularly crazy about, you've got to integrate your kids into a school that maybe you don't feel is going to be the right fit, whether or not they're going to advance as quickly as they were in the past school, or be bored out of their minds because they've already done that 8 months ago. Those are the challenges that are so difficult, and I think very hard to accept and then move forward,
Sure.
instead of holding that resentment.
Right. Or you've got kids that you've been in a neighborhood for 4 or 5 years, and the kids have friends. They like their school. They might, your older ones might have a boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's like, sorry, kids, we got to move.
I know. So to a certain degree, I think it is, this generation has it a lot easier than we did, say, in my generation, in that at least there's media, at least there's Skype, at least there is email, at least there is some connection to help ease that. It doesn't mean that it's going to be any easier, but it does mean that the transition can sort of be maybe merged a little or blended a little bit.
Like it's not as terrible as like you're left to like, okay, here's a stamp, write your boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly, because they're in Pensacola and you're in Maine.
Yeah. Well, and I think change also, like you mentioned the fear of the unknown, and that's a really big thing when you don't know. There's so many things you do know, and you can guess, and you can make these kind of predictions of what a change is going to bring, but you really don't know until the change happens, and that causes more than one sleepless night.
Very much so. Sleepless nights can be, and anxiety can cause stress, can cause a lot. And I think trying to work out a way to get a better night's sleep first, so that you can face whatever the next day is going to give you. Because especially if you're in the midst of a change, if you haven't had a good night's sleep, you are just not going to be able to face anything. You're not going to be able to decide whether you need cream in your coffee or milk.
Right. Well, look what they do to our Navy SEALs when they train them in our special forces. What do they They deprive them of food, so they're hungry.
Yeah.
Then they deprive them of warmth, so they're cold. And then they deprive them of sleep. Like that's, those are some of the biggest stressors, Rob. And I'm really excited today to talk about sleep number, because we all know sleep's important. And if you know someone who's in the military, which is Military Mom Talk Radio, I would hope you would. I don't know if you're like some creeper listening today, or you're a veteran child, like my father's a veteran. We all know how good a good night's sleep just makes everything so much better. It's like, sleep on it. You'll feel better in the morning. I think of all those things like my mom used to say. And it really makes me proud to let everyone know that during this month, Sleep Number is honoring our nation's heroes with savings reserved just for them. Now, the Sleep Number bed lets you choose the comfort and support that's right for you. It adjusts on each side. So if your battle buddy is also your bed buddy, it's great for couples. It's great for, two people who have very differing sleep habits. And you can actually feel how it kind of molds to your neck and your shoulders and your back and your hips for that just right spinal alignment. Like when your back is just like, I'm squirming around in my chair here, Rob, because I'm like, I just know that sweet spot, like when I can like completely fall asleep. And the cool thing is these Sleep Number beds are pretty smart. They can sense your every move and automatically adjust to keep you sleeping comfortably. And there's this adjustment for snoring. And I mean, seriously, whose bed does that? But, a couple of weeks ago, Rob, you went into a Sleep Number store. I want you to tell me about that.
I did, and it was fascinating. I had been there once before, but my husband, Steve, had not. And I said, you got to come in here. You got to try this, because we are in the market right now for a mattress. And we laid down and we went through. What's nice about the store is that you lay down on a bed, not just lay there and test it out, but they have this technology that will show you on a screen exactly where your pressure points are. And they reduce the amount of air supporting you to the point where you are at an optimum least amount of pressure for your particular body. And Steve was funny because he was like, "Oh, I see. I get it." You know, we were there and we were getting excited about it because you see it visually, and then they email it to you right then and there. So you have your test little data sent right to you. You have your sleep number. Now I'm a 45, but Steve wanted to be upwards of 55 or 60. Where are you, Sam? Because I know you've got one too.
My sweet spot is right around a 35. Like that's
yeah.
Where I feel best.
Yeah. Some days I think, if you've had a rough day, you might need a little more support. Other days you might really want that push. And that's the beauty of these sleep number systems, is that you're able to adjust even daily if you need to.
Well, like if I have a big workout, and I ride these 20, 25 mile rides, and when I come home, I need something different than if I'm just sitting in my car or sitting at my desk all day. I mean, it's a very different experience.
Exactly. And what bed will let you do that other than the sleep number bed? I love it. I just am so excited to know that Steve can have his support. I can have my comfort, and we can both be in the same bed.
Well, and look at the difference of you guys. Like, how tall are you, Rob?
I'm 4'8" tall. My husband is 5'8". Yeah, he's 5'8". So there's a whole foot difference. Of course, our pressure points are not going to be exactly in the same spot,
Right, well, you had 2 kids. I mean, we could go on and on, but
yeah.
He had his knee replaced or his hip replaced? What did he have done last year?
He just had his hip replaced. And that presented a problem too, because he could not sleep in our old bed for like 8 weeks until he had healed enough, because he couldn't handle the softness of our memory foam, which is what we're hoping to replace very, very soon. And Sleep Number has a beautiful i7 that I've got my eye on that has that beautiful foam right on the top.
See, and that's awesome. Now, I want to talk about the Sleep IQ score, because that's pretty neat too.
That really is. And what's wonderful is that during the night, you get a little map in the morning. You have it right on your phone. You download their app, and you get a map of how your night went. You can see where you had a rough point in the night, or you can see that you had a solid sleep and you got a good amount, the appropriate amount of sleep for you. And it's right there. So that if you've had a little bit of a tough night, you've tossed and turned a bit, that gives you an indication the next day that maybe you're not going to make some serious decisions first thing in the morning, or maybe you did have a great night's sleep and you're ready to conquer the world. I love that Sleep IQ.
Well, and it explains sometimes, like my sweet spot is, again, like my sleep score last night was a 70. I know when I get in a certain range, like if I wake up in the morning, Rob, and when my alarm goes off, like sometimes I wake up naturally, very rarely, but sometimes I do. And that's great. But most of the time, as a single mom with 2 kids and soul supporting for my 84-year-old dad, I'm like a zombie, and the alarm goes off and I'm like, coming kind of out of this weird, exhaustion. But when I look at my number and I look at my analysis, I then can determine what I want to do that day. Like if I really had a poor night's sleep and I'm feeling it and it's reflected in the Sleep IQ report, I know that I'm probably not going to do my 25-mile ride. Like I might do that tomorrow instead of today, and I might ride 10 miles, or I might skip it altogether because I need that energy to do my work and take care of my kids and my dad. So, it really does. And it keeps me from feeling like I'm losing my mind. Like, if I'm tired every day, I can look and go, okay, I need to make some adjustments. It's kind of like it's just a little aid to help me sleep better. And I want to give everybody the special. I know we could yak on forever.
I know, but I think we need to tell everybody where they can get their own.
Yeah, because there's 550 Sleep Number stores. And if you want to find one, go to sleepnumber.com/military-mom to find the store near you. Now, there's an exclusive savings just for military and veterans. And right now, it's the semi-annual sale where you'll find the special Memorial Day savings of up to $800. You want to go in the store. You're going to want to go in anyway, because I got to tell you, Rob, going in there is fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you're laying on when I was laying on the bed the first time, I'm like, because I did feel a little weird, the guys just sitting there, and I'm like laying there, and I'm like, I don't think I'm ever gonna leave. Like, I did not want to go home to my own bed. I'm like, just give me a blanket, I'll take a nap here, and I'll go home later. But it is fun. It is fun. Okay, so that special just for military and veterans, semi-annual sale, you'll find the special Memorial Day savings up to $800. There's 550 Sleep Number stores, sleepnumber.com/military-mom to find the store nearest you. So when I don't have a good night's sleep, Rob, one of the things about navigating the new normal and navigating these changes is that change is scary. And if I had a bad night's sleep, if I don't feel well, oh my gosh, like the uncertainty monster just takes over. Like I start to feel nervous. I start to feel upset. Like I don't even know why I do this to myself, because I do. Because eventually it'll all be fine. We'll settle into our new home. Kids will get into their new school. Like it will all work out in the end, one way or another. But I think also adjusting to these changes is all the dread that is the extra work. When you have to adjust to a new normal, it's more work. And military families are already pretty much overburdened by caring for a veteran, caring for children, deconstructing a household and putting a household together is a really big deal. So when you're moving every couple years, no matter how little you acquire, it's still a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And I think sometimes you don't even bother settling in because you're afraid, or at least prepared, to know that this is going to happen very shortly. I'm not unpacking those boxes. I'm not going to get ingrained in the PTA because I know I'm going to have to rip myself away from those bonds. And that's kind of an issue too, because you're almost putting up a barrier around you, worried that I'm going to feel that hurt again. I'm going to feel that pain again. I'm just not going to get involved. And that's really unfortunate too, because then you're missing out on an awful lot of good, enriched relationships and experiences, and that's kind of that's a challenge too, I think.
Well, it is, because it's that catch-22. Like when you navigate change, they say don't stifle your emotions, don't what's the other advice I've been given? Don't isolate. See, that's I don't know how long I'm going to be here, so to entrench myself in a community, so you find yourself like guarding your heart. You get involved, but you don't get too involved. You participate in things, but you participate fully, but you hold back. And then there's that little part of you that feels isolated.
Those kinds of you only hope that once you are severed from the military, at least you're going to be able to say, I can stay in one location for more than 3 years or more than 6 months or whatever. But I think that latent feeling is always there. It takes a long time to get into a more settled pattern. I think it's very challenging.
It is very challenging, and I think of my friend Sharon, and, we were talking about stuff because we both love to go walk around like Ross or TJ Maxx or, those kind of bargainy stores.
Yeah.
And, it does rob a little bit of the joy of, a military family can't really acquire a lot and it's not practical. It's not feasible. And you can't move everything, and everything's got a weight to it. And, and a cost to it to carry forward. So I think one of the things that it's like a pro and a con. You don't get attached in a way you would staying in the same town, staying in the same house, staying in the same location. You know, there was a period of time in my life where I moved 6 times in 10 years. And there were boxes that I bet you they're still in my garage, Rob. I'm not kidding you. That weren't unpacked from like move 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what's in there, but I also don't like feel like I want to go out and excavate them.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, I'll just take a flamethrower to my garage. Like if I don't know what's in there, I can't miss it. And then
that's when you've got to,
I have boxes from my friends who are deployed.
Yeah.
I have boxes from my friend Debbie, who's been deployed like, I don't know, 2 years now. And then she was relocated to Virginia. And I know they have her old stuff when she was first commissioned as an officer. She's got, you know, things there. I know they're meaningful to her. So I'm not going to chuck them. I think her old uniform's in there because I tried it on once and it was, you know, just to see if it fit. And, you know, I couldn't button the pants. And, you know, after 2 kids, I couldn't button the top. You know, but there's things like that you want to keep as part of your life. And it's really hard with the military lifestyle. You can't.
Yeah, you can't. What I was starting to say was then you have issues like when someone does pass away, like when your mom died, you can't always go through those things right away. You've got to give yourself some time. You've got to sort of get through some of the stages of your processing what your new normal is going to be. I have a new normal without mom, or I have a new normal without dad. Those are the things then that you've got to decide when is right for you. It took you a while to go through your mom's closet.
I still have stuff.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, I do too. I still have boxes, and thank goodness Stephen understands because there's boxes that are on our porch that he is very impatiently wanting to get cleared out. But I said, not ready. You know, those are some things. What's in them? They're not important, but they are to me. They are to me.
Well, that's like my friend Rick's mom came over to help me after my mom died. And, you know, she came in and she's like, this is just junk. Let's just get rid of it. This is just junk. And I know this sounds silly, but like my mom's slippers, like, isn't that funny that like, you know, she's like, old slippers. Like, who wants old slippers? Go get yourself some new ones. And then I like sat cross-legged on the floor with my head in my hands and I was weeping. And she's like, what is going on with you? She goes, are you a hoarder attached to all this stuff? And I'm like, no. I'm like, those were my mom's slippers. And I hadn't seen them, Rob, in like 3 years. And she was well-meaning. And I was really grateful that she and my friend Carrie came over to go through this stuff with me.
Yeah.
Because I needed that emotional support, and it was okay for me to let these things go. And, you know, when somebody passes on, it's hard to let the things go because the things anchor in us as representing them. But then the weirdest thing happened, like 6 months later, I went in the same closet and I was looking for something and I pulled this box out and I was like, ooh, like it smelled moldy, like must.
Oh, yeah.
And what had smelled so good, like reminded me of my mom and looked like my mom, had become this box of junk. But that didn't happen right away. No. And it took a while for it to smell like old stuff and not my mom's stuff. So I guess if you have to get rid of it, get a group of friends to support you in that. But if you don't, go at your own pace because it's another adjustment.
Right.
And there is some little grieving that goes along with each one of these. It's just a box of books, but they were my mom's cookbooks. And so that was a hard thing for me to get rid of, even though I didn't want to cook anything in them.
Yep. Yeah. I think sometimes if you take pictures of the things that you know you have to get rid of, at least you've got the memory. Certain things like my mother, because her hands were getting weak, she liked using polymer clay. And she would make these little pins or beads or little pieces of jewelry, and we would bake them, and she'd put a little clasp on the back. her hands weren't strong enough to make anything really crafty. You're not going to find her stuff on Etsy. However, I can't part with them, and I probably never will. But those happen to be tiny. There were some other boxes that she had other projects in, and I finally just had to get rid of them, but I took pictures of them, so at least I had them.
Yeah,
and
taking pictures
yeah,
and stuff. Or
yeah.
like I had a bunch of, I know this sounds silly, but like my mom used to drive me nuts with her sheets. Okay, nothing ever matched. And we had a bunch of kids and a bunch of beds, and my sister would have like the striped bottom sheet, and then she would have the flowered sheet that matched my pillowcase. You know, and then, you know, Jill would have this, Jen would have that, Susan would have this, Doug would have this, Steve would have this, you know, and it was all cattywampus, drove me insane. And the sheets were also like 10,000 years old. You know what I mean? Like they were really old and used when my mom got them. And she used to like to bargain hunt, so nothing ever matched. So like right now in my house, everybody has white sheets. Like
yeah.
No patterns, no stripes, no anything. Well, so my dad's cleaning out my mom's pantry, or what do you call it? The linen closet.
Yeah.
And he hands me all these pillowcases, and they're like, oh my gosh, Rob, I just fell apart. And then I lugged those suckers back to California, where I hired a seamstress in town here, and she made me this quilt.
I was going to say, I wonder if you should make a quilt, but you're way ahead of me.
And it's so ugly, because it's not like, some of them are like 70s disco prints, and then there's like the ugly stuff from the 60s, like the greens and the mauves, the, you know, the like, just like the stripes that are so ugly. Yeah. And then there's like cheery floral Laura Ashley prints from the 80s. I mean, it's like a world of history in pillowcases.
Mm-hmm. But you love it.
I do. And when I miss my mom, I grab a cup of tea and I look at one of her old cookbooks where she made handwritten notes, and I sit in the blanket. And then I had an ugly quilt made, remember, with my baby clothes?
Yeah.
The stained, soiled baby clothes that weren't worth reusing but had meaning to me.
Yes.
I made the ugly quilt. I actually sewed that sucker myself. Never again.
Yeah.
But if I have an untimely demise, you have to bury me with both quilts.
Okay. My son did that with band T-shirts. There was somebody who was willing to do that. So he actually had a lot of his band T-shirts kind of put together, and he used it on the back so his wife can flip it over, and it's got a pretty side on one side. And the T-shirt's on the other side when he wants to kind of rock out with his youth.
Yeah, but you know that the divorce quilt, especially the baby quilt, really. Do you remember that really helped me cope with those changes? Because when my kids were 3 and 5 or 5 and 6, I can't remember what they were, and they first went over to their dad's for their first overnight, and I cried that whole night. Like it, you know. Not everybody's like that, but I was. And I was so happy to have the quilt with their little baby shirts in it. And I just kind of wrapped myself up in it and cried for whatever reason I was crying for. But all those tears and that little ugly quilt and the quilt with my mom, like that has helped me cope. And it's not big. I didn't have them make a big bed size. Yeah. It's like maybe a 50 by 60. You know, it's not real big.
Right.
It's just enough that I can feel it, touch it, and cover myself up with it.
But what we're saying here is using something that's tangible to get you across that bridge to something that you can't quite do on your own. And there's nothing wrong with finding something, whether it means holding on to some handmade beads, having a quilt made of those memories, taking photographs of the things. I actually wear my mother's wedding band that was her very first wedding band. The day she died, I put it on my hand, and it probably will be there until I die. And then it'll be on Emily's hand. So, but those are the things that help us. And I don't think there's anything wrong with finding those tangible things that are helping us with those emotional things. And that's what you need to find, is what is it that you need in order to face whatever you can't face. And that could be anything for anybody, but You sometimes need a friend maybe to say, hey, but I think you need to find something that's going to be your crutch.
Well, or, and to help you at certain times, like I have ornaments from every place that I live.
Right. Yes.
And they're just meaningful to me. Like, they're an ornament I picked up here. So when I put those ornaments on my tree, I can have those memories, and I'm already being poignant at that time anyway. Though I will tell you, want me to tell you about my epic fail Christmas tree that I did? Oh, it was gruesome. I decided I was going to go to one of those craft stores and buy those little hanging ornaments that you put people's pictures in.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I was so happy, Rob. I got online. I uploaded all my family pictures of people who had passed, my dogs who had passed, and I made them, and I didn't hang them that year. It was so funny. I made them all, and then as people, I bought some extra, and as my relatives passed on or my friends passed on, I put them all together. And then about 3 years ago, I took them all out, and I'm like, I'm going to make a memory tree. And I made my memory tree. And then Max and Zach come out, and they're like, wow, Mom, look at all those pictures. Look at all those. And Max is like, is that Bailey? And I'm like, yeah. Like, Bailey who died? And I'm like, our dog Bailey. And then he's like, oh my God, it's snowy. And then Zach's like, that's Grandma. And they looked at me and they're like, oh my God, this is the dead tree. Like, this is horrible. And what started out as what I thought was this great crafting project became like the tree of death. You were horrified.
Leave it to Zachy to call a spade here,
Merry Christmas. They're all dead. So now all I do is I bring out a couple dogs, and I'll put my mom on the tree, but like 4 sets of grandparents. So maybe for what is it, the Mexican Day of the Dead, the Dios.
Yeah.
For that. But, you just kind of roll with it. And now I laugh. Like when those ornaments that were so emotional and made me feel so much emotion, now I just look and I laugh. And I know that they're up in the heavens, wherever they are, laughing right along with me. Oh my God, it's a Christmas tree full of everything dead.
Yes. Oh gosh. Those are the things that you have to do. You have to have them, and you have to later laugh at them. But there are also things we should probably talk a little bit, San, about those things that are harder to face or harder to get over, like something that's going to be a permanent change, whether it be our health. I know after cancer, I've had challenges ever since. I'm never going to be the way I was before. Sometimes we have injuries that we will never be the same as we were before. Those are a little bit harder to come to grips with.
There is, because there's always that, like I talk a lot about in the classes that I teach about like time traveling. Like time traveling can be really detrimental in situations of loss, like loss of health, loss of limb, loss of life, or loss of a marriage, loss of a home. All those losses come together. And when you time traveling to the past can make you feel nostalgic. You can miss this. You can, you're kind of going back to a place that doesn't exist anymore. And if you're like me, a lot of times you romanticize what it was like because it's easier to remember that. But then I feel lousy. And then if I spend too much time traveling in the future, that's when I get into the what if this happens, what if this gets worse, or when this gets worse, or, what if I get divorced again? What if I lose my house? Like, what if my health continues to deteriorate? And the likelihood is any of those could and will happen. But that doesn't help us right now. And we talk about staying present. You have to stop time traveling. You can't go in the past and you can't go in the future. And it just takes practice to do that.
Yeah. I think that was something that was very apparent with me because it was difficult when I was still had little children or younger children when I did go through it. And as a mom, of course you worry about whether or not you're going to be there for your daughter's high school graduation or your college graduation or your marriage or whatever. Grandbabies. But the thing that I felt that I needed to do was live today. And even if I don't have tomorrow, I need to find what's good about today. There are days that I don't feel as peppy. There are days that I wish I was out walking instead of maybe with my feet up. But on the other hand, I learned that I need to find something good in today. And I had a friend who used to say, oh, you're always a Pollyanna. You always look at the bright side. You always try and see the glass half full, not half empty. And even to this day, my daughter keeps throwing that up at me. She keeps saying, oh, Mom, is the glass half full today? Or, because I'm always trying to find the positive. I think I always was that way. But even more so now, it could be the most minuscule thing. I was able to walk up and down the stairs with 2 clean towels. That could be a huge accomplishment. And you have to embrace that.
Well, and I think, it's very easy to be negative. It's very easy to go down the roads of fear and anxiety and frustration. And so, to be fair, we do know that a positive attitude is not only ruled by genetics, but ruled by brain chemistry. So it is harder for other people. It's harder for some people. We can acknowledge that. But at the end of the day, it's a choice. And what's funny, Rob, is you get to choose your reality. Like when you talk about that glass half full, glass half empty, you get to choose your reality. Now, the situation may be the same. But how you interpret it, how you look at it, what weight you give to certain things. Like those 2 towels that you can now carry up the stairs where you couldn't carry anything, you could either be happy that you could carry those 2 towels or unhappy because you used to be able to carry 10.
Yeah.
It's your choice. The reality is the same. 2 towels were carried up. But how you choose to interpret that is entirely up to you. And that's what that phrase means, that you create your reality. What you choose to focus on, what meaning you choose to give it. Like when my mom passed away, I was so sad and I was relieved at the same time. And I felt really guilty for that.
Yes.
Because I couldn't shake the feeling that I was so glad she wasn't in pain anymore. She wasn't suffering. She wasn't throwing up. She wasn't in constant pain. I didn't wish death on her, but death was a relief. And it was a relief on me because there's no more helpless feeling than caring for someone you love and you can't get them out of pain. You can't make them feel better. I would have stood on my head, given my left kidney. But that feeling of helplessness, it just sucked for everybody. And when she died, there was a big part of me that was relieved that she wasn't suffering anymore. And I kept focusing on the relief. Yeah. I didn't go back to the bitterness. I didn't go to the future that she's going to miss out on all these things. I didn't go back to the what if she lived, what if, or, there was a while there that I was really mad at God and really mad at the situation, those full gamut of emotions. But I choose to focus on the fact that she's not suffering anymore, and that gives me some peace.
Yes, yeah. I think there are times when maybe you need to jot down at the end of the day what was one thing that was good about today and what was one thing that was bad about today. And whatever is on the bad thing, you scratch that out and replace it with one good thing that you're going to do tomorrow. It sounds so basic, it sounds so elementary, but having that task, having it being in your hand, having it visual, gives you that sense that, yes, there it is in black and white or blue and white, that I did something positive today. I scratched out the thing that I felt bad or negative or hated about today, and I replaced it with something good tomorrow. And that gives you your focus for the next day. That's one thing that you're going to try and accomplish. I know that's one thing that I battle with Stephen about, in that we have a whole lot of things that we've got to do to our house. It's an older house. A lot of things need to be done to it. He's looking at the list that's got 29 things on it that are all major, needs repair, needs a carpenter, needs whatever. I said, stop it. Take one thing off of that list and put it on the refrigerator, and that's it.
Right.
And then when you're done with that one thing, put one more thing up. And I think having to physically focus on something a lot more attainable, a lot more tangible, that's going to give you the feeling of success, and then therefore that's going to feel accomplished, and that's going to give you drive to be able to accomplish whatever else you've got to deal with.
Well, it's true. And it's like one of the things that our service people are drilled in. Like when they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Like,
yes,
that's it. Like, everything as a whole can be so overwhelming. And what you did was you took that elephant, that big list that you had, and you broke it down into bite-sized pieces.
Right.
But the bigger thing at play, Rob, is the fact that you have a house. You have a place to live. Like, even when my air conditioning was broken, my pool was broken, my washer and dryer were broken, my ice maker was broken, my garbage disposal. Do you remember that summer?
I do.
It was like Armageddon in my own house from the inside out. Like, just everything was breaking. That's when I pushed that refrigerator up the hill from my mom's old house. Rick and I pushing it up the hill on this dolly because I didn't have the money to get a U-Haul, just all these crazy things from that time. But the one thing, like, I think you were the one who told it to me, and I was crying and I was so upset. And you're like, but San, you have a place to live. Your kids have not had to move after the divorce. Like, you're in your home. Yes, it's 110 in your living room. You can't run the dishwasher or the garbage disposal, but you have water. Like, and then we started to laugh. Like, I don't know if you even remember that conversation.
I do.
Cracking up, going like, Rob, I can't see a dead cat around in this house without hitting something that's broken. And it did take me, maybe 2 years to get everything fixed, to be able to afford to get things fixed. And, thank God there was a leak in my roof, that gave the insurance money that, ease some of those things. But, I laugh about it now, but at that time it was just crisis after crisis. But the fact remains is I had a place to live. Wasn't perfect, it was crazy hot. But, there weren't snakes running through my house. There weren't rats running around, like it could be, I guess the thing is, it could be a lot worse. No matter what we're going through, if we have a friend, like you reminded me, Stan, look, it could be a lot worse.
And that's what I was just going to say. There are times that we have to let at least one person in. We have to say, I need to talk to somebody. I need to open up. If you're depressed and you're feeling that you're getting into a depression, you do need to talk to somebody. If you just are just overwhelmed and need to sort things out, call your friend, call a buddy. There's nothing wrong with laying it out and just opening up. You're not always going to be able to do everything alone. So.
Right. I mean, it's like, when I found that really good therapist that helped me through my mom's death and raising the kids and starting
kids, right.
And and just saying the words, sometimes I would start to crack up and laugh because they sounded so ridiculous. Like, in my head, they made a whole lot of sense, Rob.
Yeah.
Like, and I would cry and feel bad and then I would say it to my therapist and then burst out laughing, going like, so stupid. Like, why did I think this? But shame can only live in darkness. Fear can only live in darkness. And when you talk to a therapist or a trusted friend or a pastor or a family readiness officer, any of these people that, hopefully you can trust, you realize that nothing is worse than what's in your own head.
Isn't that true? I know. because then you get some objectivity. And once you have objectivity, that puts it in perspective. And once it's in perspective, you can handle it.
Yep. And thoughts are heavy.
Oh, God,
that's the one thing that I don't think, like, I know, because I was working entirely in tech at that time, other than my children, days could go by and I wouldn't talk to another human being. Everything was text, email, instant message, coding, going back and forth. And I lost the ability to have a conversation with another person.
Yeah.
And when they would say, how are you? Only you and like my mom and a handful of other people, I could actually articulate how I was, because I lost touch and connection. Everything was so isolated. Everything was so frozen.
Yeah.
I'm fine. And I was like, Mark always called me the queen of deflection, because I would go, because he deflects too. I'm like, hey, Mark, how you doing today? Good, San. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
So how are you doing? Good. How are you? And it would like go back and forth, and not either one of us would say, like, this is where the therapist helped me with the languaging. I am frustrated because I don't know what to do with my mom's ashes. I am stressed because I have all her things in my house. I'm scared because I don't know how to help my dad through this.
Right.
I'm afraid because I have to go to court tomorrow for custody. Like, those words I did not have at that time. I don't think you ever heard me say them.
No, I did not. Because I don't think it's almost like being a young person, like a 1.5-year-old or a 2-year-old. They don't have words yet to explain what those feelings are. So they have meltdowns. And I think that's the easiest thing to do, is you just have a meltdown, and to be able to have the tools to be able to say those buzzwords, those facilitating words, afraid, confused, overwhelmed, all of those kinds of facilitating words, because then that brings it into an action, a requirement of action. Because if you're afraid, therefore, what are you going to combat that with? And I think that just opens up the ability to tackle it.
Right. Well, and there's some people that walk this earth, like I think of my sister and, like Jen and Susan can articulate very clearly what they're feeling. Jill and I kind of got goose eggs on that. And so I was like a 3-speed car. I was either sad, I was either scared, or I was mad. Like, I could identify those 3 feelings, but there were a whole bunch of other feelings in there. And I think from years of stuffing, maybe because I work in tech, like maybe it's the way I'm made. It could have been, it could be a million reasons.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is the therapist helped me untangle some of this stuff. So I could say, well, she's like, you're not really sad, you're grieving. And these are the things that happen when you grieve. Because since, life is not, it's not like dominoes where they all line up really nice. They're kind of all scattered around in a bag. And, you might have a death and a divorce and a foreclosure and a new job and a new kid and a new baby. They don't line up like little soldiers. They kind of all merge into one. And sometimes they happen at the same time.
Yeah.
So to kind of untangle some of this stuff so you can handle it is really beneficial when you go to get somebody to help you, because then I could also express what I was feeling, but I could then ask for what I need. Because if you don't know what's going on, you don't know why you're feeling a certain way, everything is just overwhelming, and you're either completely sad, completely mad, or completely afraid.
Yeah.
How do you even know what to ask for, or how to get help, or who to go to for help? And if you go, what are you going to ask for? We're back to that circular. So if you're like me, you just put up, shut up, and suck it up. And that did not do well. I didn't have good results from that.
No, and I think there again, if you are talking with someone, they're looking at you in a more objective way, and they can say, all right, step 1, let's take this. This is attainable. Let's deal with this factor. And I think sometimes You have to give yourself permission to lean on somebody, to let somebody help you. We, especially women, feel very empowered that we are supposed to do it all. We are supposed to take on the world. We're supposed to do it all. We don't have to. We don't need to. We can have help. We can ask for help.
Or you gave me permission. Like, I remember one time you said to me, San, it's okay that the laundry isn't done.
Yes.
Because one of the things, as a soul supporting single full-time working mom, I really tried to keep up with dual household parents.
Yep.
You know, I tried to do everything the dad would do and everything the mom would do. And then these are what my kids need. And this is what my dad needs. And I ran myself ragged in those years. And then you say to me things like, San, it's okay if the laundry's not done. And I'd be like, no, it isn't. The laundry's not done. Like, now I look back, like, there's the overwhelm. Like, I look back and go, really, Rob? I got that tweaked about the laundry not getting done, or the fact that it was in the kids' laundry baskets in their room, and you're like, San, that's okay. Like, you don't have to have it all put away. But, you know, I didn't know where to put the brakes on. Because I was in combat mode. I was in go, get it done. And most of military moms are that same way. They're just get it done right. Don't complain, you know, and then just cry in the bathroom.
Or go do your toenails. Isn't that your go-to? That's your go-to.
That was my go-to. They're like, you need to have some self-care. Okay, I will get a pedicure like once a year. There is my self-care.
Go paint your toenails in the bathroom, cry it out, and then you can face the world.
Yep. And, you know, and we laugh about these things, but they were really, really painful times for me. And, you know, I'd like to wrap up our show for today by saying, if any of you gals are listening today and you resonate with any of these feelings, call Rob. Call her. That's what I did. Get a cup of tea, get on Skype. She'll talk you off the wall. She'll talk to you. But that's what a good friend does. Or call,
that is what a good friend does.
You know, my therapist, who put everything into perspective. And there were times, Rob, that she would just look at me in the session, and then she'd go, I want you to kind of repeat what you just said to me. And then I would tell her, and she said, would you in a million years ever say that to your friend? And I'd be like, no. And she's like, why are you saying it to yourself? Like, you have to learn. Some of us have to learn how to be our own best friend.
Isn't that true? I know. Well, I'm glad you're my best friend.
Yes, me too. Me too. We've been through a lot in, 15 years?
About that. Close to it anyway. Yeah.
So I'll give out your home number. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Like 1,000 calls. I need Robin. Oh, all right. Well, there we go. Our show is done for this week. My name is Sandra Beck, and my lovely co-host is
Robin Boyd.
And we will be back again next week with another episode on Military Mom Talk Radio. Have a great week.
Thanks for spending time with us today on Military Mom Talk Radio. We've got more than 200 episodes available to you anytime on iTunes or at our website, militarymomtalkradio.com. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. We look forward to another great conversation with you on Military Mom Talk Radio.